I love the Royal Rumble. You love the Royal Rumble. You love AEW. I watch AEW as well. I want to say I really like AEW. Well, I think I've found the thing that can make it even better, and that is combining AEW and the Royal Rumble. It's something they've tried in the past. We've seen the Casino Battle Royal. We've even seen the Casino Gauntlet match, which is a little bit different because anyone can win it at any time. But you and I actually came with this idea quite a few years ago. I distinctly remember talking about this during the pandemic to fix the issues that the Battle Royal has. Because the problem you have is, yes, you have, what's the last entrant in the Battle Royal called? There's like a special name.
That Joker, baby.
Thanks very much. You have that for the big surprise and what have you. But for the most of the time, you're like, oh, the Hearts are coming out. Who's that? And people kind of get lost in the shuffle, right? You can't just completely rip off the Royal Rumble and do a 1 to 30, but you can do 1 to 37, I think it is, because I'm suggesting the roulette wheel strategy of doing the Rumble, basically. You have to gimmick it, obviously. If someone's number comes out twice, they can't come out again. But it doesn't really matter. Everything's gimmicked in wrestling. So you have it, and the big ball, ding, 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 oh, it's red 28 or whatever. And that brings out people. You could even arguably have, like, certain people, like, reds are people from AEW and blacks are people from other promotions, whether that be Ring of Honor or New Japan or whatever. But obviously you've got the green 0 on a roulette wheel, and that is effectively either your number 30 spot or the spot that you promise to people. That's just a mega star that you're going to get. That is going to be a sort of someone that's the size of a Will Ospreay jumping or whoever it may be, or just a massive return. I just feel like they've tried a variety of different things, and it's obviously just such an easy gimmick and something that actually they could. Royal Rumbles recently have not been great, let's be perfectly honest. Something they could really showcase. I mean, they've got the big enough fucking roster to do it for 37 people, that's for sure. But like showcasing the talent, that, you know, multi-man matches, getting people out there and giving someone a title shot off the back of Double or Nothing, which is obviously where it all began for them as well in the first place.
And the gambling aesthetic.
And the gambling aesthetic, of course. And we'll be there every year because it's our idea. They have to fly us out every year so we can watch it. So thanks, Tony.
Cheers.
If you said the two most iconic figures that need bringing back together in WWE right now are Jimmy and Jey Uso, you would be bang wrong because it's law and cinema. And with the Usos, you get both. But it's not just about the Usos coming back together, it's about everything that follows in the aftermath of that. Look, as we record this, I will date it slightly to say that my prediction of Jey Uso winning Money in the Bank might not have come true. I would like it to, and here's why. I think if Jey Uso's got the briefcase, it gets around the difficult situation of him not being able to quite achieve the singles title he so desperately desired, but holding on to a golden opportunity to seemingly do so. He should be stopped by the Bloodline as they continue to keep Cody Rhodes in check, as they continue to deal with the losses of the prior version of the Bloodline while Roman Reigns remains off television and Solo Sikoa acts under the instruction of the tribal chief, whoever exactly that may be. Jey should win Money in the Bank following the shock return of Jimmy, or if he doesn't win Money in the Bank, at least win a significant match as a result of the shock return of Jimmy. Coming to stave off the Bloodline, you can do the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn coming together, where they don't exactly come together at first, but they at least understand that they have a mutual respect and a mutual love that goes deeper than anything the Bloodline can do to them. Over time, you rebuild a bond and you rebuild the trust between Jey and Jimmy. Why I want the briefcase is because that can just sit there nicely in the background while they deal with family business, while they come together again, while Roman Reigns makes his return alongside them, while the tribal chief says yeet for the very first time and those no yeet shirts are thrown away forever, while the four of them alongside a Sami Zayn or a Kevin Owens or whoever inside that mini cage at War Games against the new Bloodline can sort of vie to go out first, and Roman Reigns goes, no, I'll go out first, because the family are right again and Roman Reigns has learnt the errors of his ways and the Usos have never felt more bonded, all the while Jey Uso holds onto that case, and we're never really allowed to forget that the one thing he never had the chance to do was win that singles title. WrestleMania season emerges, and rather than cashing in for a singles title and getting his moment, he looks upon his reunited family, he looks upon the damage, the new Bloodline of Raw, and says to Jimmy, we need to do it together the right way. And the Usos, having lost the tag belts at 39, having exploded really boring fashion at 40, come back together at 41, completing a nice 3-year arc to regain the tag titles. Ideally at that point from a combination in the new Bloodline. Maybe they go as a Destiny, maybe Jacob Fatu to the match is good, but like some sort of version where you have another, maybe night one main event again. There's a nice bit of symmetry, but certainly an enormous tag team title match where Jay has realised the briefcase is best served in preserving the love and the brotherhood of the Bloodline rather than his own dreams, because as the true babyface, the kind of nicest guy in the room all along, he's always been able to look out for the bigger picture.
When it comes to fantasy booking, I'm not really one of the people that thinks long-term stories so much as specific moments, very WWE of me, and mine is Kevin Owens. There's a 24-hour pocket where he could have pinned a child and he should have done it. And so let's get into what I'm talking about. I'm talking about WrestleMania 34, very specifically, obnoxiously specific, the Raw Tag Team title match between The Bar and Braun Strowman and a partner of his choosing, which turned out to be Nicholas, the 10-year-old from the crowd, the son of the referee John Cone. They won the Raw Tag Team Championships. Nice, wholesome moment, and relinquished them the next night on Raw because Nicholas had school to go to. Very nice, warm WrestleMania. Of course, WWE's happy, shiny thing. They could have used it for nuclear heat by having Kevin Owens pin a child for the titles. Owens and Zayn were also at WrestleMania. They were the heels against Shane O'Mac and Daniel Bryan's authority figure thing, trying to get rehired for SmackDown. I would have had them immediately after watching WrestleMania. I was like, you have them now. Go to Raw the next night. Challenge Braun and this child for the tag team titles. Braun actually tagged Nicholas in during the WrestleMania match and then immediately tagged back out. Maybe they do that again, maybe they do it in a cocky way, maybe Braun gets taken out and they drag him over. He keeps kicking out of pins and they drag him over to Nicholas and force a tag. Kevin Owens gets Nicholas in the ring, demands that he lays down, puts a foot on him, puts a finger on him, whatever it is. The kid isn't going to fight back, of course. Kevin Owens pins a child on Raw to win the Raw Tag Team Championships, and I guess you could argue that's how they get their jobs back in WWE as well, as part of that rehire me storyline. And also, as I said, huge heat. It's perfect for Kevin Owens' character at the time. It was a 24-hour pocket of perfect timing, and they didn't use it appropriately, in my opinion.
So, you want a cool fantasy booking idea? Well, have I got the idea for you, because mine involves a guy that you probably know quite well. He's got blonde hair, he's got an American Nightmare stamp on his neck. It is, of course, Cody Rhodes, man of the people, the champion of the world, the guy who has finished his story at WrestleMania. That's the guy that I'd like to do something a bit interesting with over the next year or so. So, we've obviously loved the run so far with the belt. He's had some great matches, the promos have been superb, he's just been everything that we've wanted Cody to be as a WWE champion. He's been that, so no notes there. But if I've learned one thing over the last 15 years of being a wrestling fan, it's that wrestling fans are, well, we're fickle, aren't we? And we're going to get bored, we're going to get tired, and we're probably going to start booing Cody at some point. It's going to be like, oh, Cody wins again, yeah, Cody wins, lol. It will happen at some point, but rather than rejecting this and going the full Cena route of just no, he's still the babyface hero, don't do that. No, don't do that. This time, lean into it. Have Cody just slowly, gradually get a bit more arrogant, a bit more up himself, just get flashier, the suits get more extravagant, he's just even more of a smiley kind of a-hole, really, and people are just like, oh, you know what you're doing now, you've been really smarmy. Have him do that, have him then slowly as well start cutting corners in matches and cheating a little bit more, all that good stuff, all that good heelish stuff, and then eventually just have him completely snap, and then pull out the black suits, have the black hair, and instead of being the American Nightmare, he can become WWE's worst nightmare. That's what I want to see. And then inevitably, on top of this, we'll probably end up getting a faction, because that's just wrestling, isn't it? We're going to get a faction at some point. And in that faction, I'd have a Sean Spears, Ethan Page, maybe even a Ricky Starks come over from AEW at some point, because he's doing nothing over there. Have all these people that used to work in AEW be his new faction. Then Cody be like, oh, I've only chosen people from the elite company over there because they're better than all these other people in WWE who are just beneath me. They're inferior, and that just annoy everyone. I'd love to see that. And then eventually you can have Cody, whether he's WWE champion or not, just be beaten and toppled by somebody like a Sami Zayn. And here's my thought behind Sami Zayn. He's a guy who's been on this journey with Cody over the last year or so, last couple of years. He's seen the true Cody, the goodness within Cody, and he could be the guy to bring that back out of him again at a WrestleMania or wherever it is, and just have that be a big emotional thing where Sami's like, come on Cody, just listen to the Cody within, the American Nightmare within. Dusty wouldn't want this. Oh, it'd just be emotional again, I'd be crying. I'm already crying. This is what we should do. This is how you should book the worst nightmare of WWE, that is Cody Rhodes.
This is basically inspired at a time when WWE were unable to create new stars. Obviously, they don't really have a problem with that anymore. But at a time when I cared and thought it would matter, I had an idea, right, where the... Fuck, I'm starting again.
Yeah.
Starting again. That was what I discussed. Yeah.
Michael Sidgwick, what is your best wrestling fantasy booking idea?
See, this was inspired at a time when WWE couldn't create new stars at all. They don't have that problem anymore. And this is a way of creating 2 new stars at once. So it basically rests on the idea that the brand split is a brand split. It is disciplined, there's minimal crossover, none of that bollocks monthly, quarterly, invitational, whatever. So what happens is on Raw and SmackDown, the night after WrestleMania, right, you debut 2 quite similar wrestlers from NXT onto Raw and SmackDown respectively. To use 2 examples, right, and I think it would work for 2 similar characters. I'm thinking, no offense Brutus, you're great, but Julius Creed and Bron Breakker. So you put one on Raw, one on SmackDown. You make them both go on undefeated streaks, and very gently, without even referencing it on commentary, you encourage the fans to sort of draw parallels between the 2 wrestlers who are quite similar. Who's more explosive? Who's got the better sort of intense meathead energy? Like Breakker or Creed? Who's better out of these 2? Because you want to deliberately position both of them in a sort of similar role. One's gunning for the Intercontinental, one's gunning for the United States title. Again, they're very similar wrestlers. You think, right, who's more explosive? Who's the better wrestler here? And eventually, you are entrusting the audience to spark this conversation. You can even go subliminal with it, where Breakker could start a Raw, Creed could start a SmackDown, and they could main event each respective show on the same week. So they really want you to compare and contrast these 2 wrestlers. Deeper in the year, one wins the Intercontinental, one wins the United States title, again, in very close proximity to one another. So you're, again, inviting this conversation. You want to build the idea of this match in the fans' eyes, so it's like it's their idea almost. They want to see it because it's their thing. Main character energy, capitalize on this sort of thing. At the Royal Rumble, there's an interaction, and in fact, at Survivor Series, you might get that first. They walk past one another backstage, so the fans are like, "Oh my God, it's happening! It's happening!" That office beam thing. At the Royal Rumble, there's the first physical interaction. One of them throws out the other, and they're like, "I cannot stand this. I cannot be considered the worst of the 2. My competition, the Messi Ronaldo thing, you know, that sort of intense competition, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, that sort of deal. And then the person who gets eliminated costs the other their title, and then in response, the other one's cost again. And then what happens is they have this big match at WrestleMania. The process being, and the result being, you've got 2 wrestlers in a major match who are considered big stars because they're class and they've gone undefeated mostly, and you've created 2 stars at WrestleMania 41 where they didn't even exist on that main roster in WrestleMania 40. So it's basically a rip-off of Bullfit and Baron Corbin, but longer and a bit better.
Love it.
Well, it's fun to look back at the past and look at, what would have happened if Mr. Perfect had beaten Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship, or what if stunning Steve Austin was given the rocket behind him, brother, in WCW. I'm going to look towards the future, and I'm going to look specifically as Bron Breakker as a Paul Heyman guy. Yes, that is my idea of fantasy booking. It's not something we need to go to immediately, but whenever things finally settle down with the bloodline and Paul Heyman becomes a little bit freer, then Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, it is a match made in heaven. Bron Breakker, with or without Paul Heyman, is going to be one of the biggest stars in the industry. He's going to headline multiple WrestleManias. He's going to be a multiple world champion, all being well. So he doesn't necessarily need Heyman, but Paul Heyman is a sort of a person who accentuates so many positives in an act. And yes, you could say that Heyman as a mouthpiece is one thing, but Paul Heyman as a mouthpiece doesn't necessarily always overshadow people. Look at his relationship with CM Punk. CM Punk, a great talker, was allowed plenty of time to talk, and Bron Breakker, so far, there's potential there as a promo, and you've got someone like Paul Heyman to do a little bit of the heavy lifting for him, and it just seems to work so well. And you can you can play into, I mean, if you really want to, you can play into the history of the Steiners. Of course, the Steiners, Rick Steiner being Bron's father, Scott Steiner being his uncle. The Steiners had a brief cup of coffee in ECW under Paul Heyman, Bully Dangerously, in 1995. You can even look back at early 90s WCW and somehow tie that in there as well with a little bit of history, because WWE, they can stretch logic with narratives when it comes to history. They dictate the history these days, so they can say whatever they want, and there can be some great relationship between the Steiners and Paul Lee, that was never actually really there. But yes, it just seems like a no-brainer that the next Brock Lesnar guy, what am I talking about? The next Paul Heyman guy in the mold of Brock Lesnar, CM Punk. Of course, it didn't quite work out for Michael McGillicuddy, Curtis Axel, Joe Hennig, but Bron Breakker, and this is no disrespect to Joe Hennig, 'cause I think that was a fantastic talent that was somewhat fumbled, but Bron Breakker has a lot more upside than Michael McGillicuddy, Curtis Axel ever did. So yes, Paul Heyman, Bron Breakker, it doesn't need to happen. Like I said, there's no immediate rush. It could be even something that's after WrestleMania 41. Maybe we're looking at 18 months time, but I think that when the time comes and to get Brock Lesnar, Jesus, got Brock Lesnar on the brain now that I mentioned him, but to get Bron Breakker to that next level, that world title level, when that does come, because he won't be going there straight away. There will be, the IC title maybe. There will be that mid-card, upper mid-card, working his way up. But when the time comes to pull the trigger on him as a top guy, Paul Lee is your man.